everyone, to Real Talk. I guess week 2, even though it's like more like week 3. My voice is kind of gone because I have been speaking to religion classes all day in Mrs. Menning's class, which has been a lot of fun. We've had a little Q&A. I was able to present a little bit of the gospel message to the students. But for Real Talk today, we talked about video games causing violence in our culture. And I think that it was, I thought everybody would be of the same opinion that video games don't cause violence. However, there were many students that did, there were many students that said no, that it didn't, and that there were other factors that were contributing to it, such as your mental state, your upbringing, different things like that. Although there were some students that they did notice that there was that it did cause something. It just might not be the end-all be-all situation. So, and I'll tell you what, there were some students, and you're always surprised, I think, that some of the students have very articulate, sometimes when you think of middle school students, you're like, oh gosh, middle school students, they're not necessarily the most practiced at speaking, but there were some students today that really were able to present some really good arguments. And I think one of the best ones was, we always try to find something to blame, whether, I think that we can all come to an agreement that video games do affect us in some way, or impact us in some way. Whether it's video games we play, the music we listen to, the movies we watch, they don't not affect us. They affect us in some way. But are they the sole purpose? Along with parents, like us as parents, the things that we let our kids get involved in, they do affect our students in some way. Like if we're gonna let our students play these games or watch these movies, we're gonna have to deal with some of the consequences. Some of them we might see, some of them might be unforeseen. And then I think our students realized that quite a bit. They said, we always look for something to pin on, something that we can point at, something that we can have a witch hunt out for, something that we can blame for the problems in our culture. And for the last, probably 20 years, I think that Columbine happened when I was in high school. So I'm around the age of some of you guys. 99, I think, is when it happened. So that's 20, I think that's 20 years ago. Yeah, it's 2009, 2019, yeah. That happened, and since then, we've really been, and actually that's even funny, because I've seen people referencing, even in 1985, them referencing, I know what it was, them referencing Dungeons and Dragons, the board game, not even the video game, the board game Dungeons and Dragons, being something that might lead students into violent behavior. So this has been happening for a long time. I was actually born in 85, so nice year there. But we've always tried to find these demons. Okay, who can we blame for the situation that's happening here? And that's happened throughout all of human history. But our students were able to say clearly today, I believe, that it's not necessarily just one thing. Many of these things play a factor, and maybe some of them more than others. But we have to look at more than one thing. We have to look at how these kids are being raised, and what families are they growing up in, what's being allowed in those families. Also, what video games are they playing? What access do they have to different movies, different media? What's their mental state? How are they? Are they dealing with certain mental diseases that are causing them to get into some of these terrible habits? Not terrible habits, but terrible situations. So all in all, I think it was a more of a mild conversation than last week. It wasn't quite as entertaining and exciting. But students did have an opinion, and they stated them well. With that being said, our next week's topic should be even more of an exciting one. We spent a little bit of the class period at the very end talking about it, and students were already kind of getting worked up about it. But we're talking about dress code next week, so that one will definitely get some people riled up. So a little bit of a more mild video today, but I would see what your children think. Whether it's video games or movies, what do you think? How do you see it affecting you? And at the very least, ask your students, how do you see these video games affecting you? And take stock of how you see it affect them. I know as a parent that when I take the iPad from my kids, there's always that, it almost feels like you're taking that plug out of their head, and it's like a scab, or like it's attached to their body and it actually hurts them. So I think we can agree that it does have some effect, but what effect do your students think that it has on them? What effect do you see as a parent? So to have those conversations, and look forward to an exciting video next week when we talk about dress code.